Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Sarthak Kaushik. I did my MBBS from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Medical College in Delhi. So this is the MBBS internship guide. So first of all, why am I making this video? When I was starting my internship, I was feeling kind of lost on how to start and how to approach this internship, which was supposedly very scary. So I went upon YouTube and tried to look into videos, but I couldn't find the material which I was looking for, which I needed at that point of time. Most of the content on YouTube was basically how to study in your internship, which is one aspect of this video, but I wanted to know how to plan my studies and my schedule during internship, which will help me to study better. So first of all, why do you need to plan your internship? And see, internship is a completely new territory, and it is very, very, very different from how you used to approach your MBBS studies. Before your internship, you were students, you were college students, and you were treated as college students by your colleagues, by your teachers, by the hospital staff, by everyone. But now you're going to be staff of the hospital first and students later. The consultants or the teachers who used to be very sweet to you during your MBBS days will probably not be as sweet during your internship. The working hours during internship can be very overwhelming, and you might not need know how to plan those days ahead, because in during MBBS it was very, very easy to take a break from college. If you wanted to go out, if you wanted to go for a vacation, if you wanted to study, you could easily take a leave, study, or do anything you want to do with your free time. But here you're totally bound with your duty hours. You won't get much casual leaves to take, and everyone will be on your head to complete your work. And you won't get that freedom which you had during the first 4.5 years. Then you need to plan, because most of us are going to be appearing for NEET PG, for INICT, for USMLE, for UPSC exams, or for PLAB. And last but the most important of all is that you need to take care of your mental health, which is going to be questioned a lot of times during this internship. So first of all, what are the variables that will be deciding how your internship is going to pan out in the next 12 months, or which factors will help you plan studies as well as your free time effectively? Patient load, the department in which you are posted right now, the place where you study or the place where you travel from, your sleeping schedule, and the time that you have been into internship. Talking about patient load, so the first variable that we have is patient load. Depending upon whether you are in a private hospital or in a government hospital, or any of it for that matter, the load can be a high load hospital, medium load, or less load. See, high load hospitals have only 12 to 24-hour duties. There are a lot of postgraduate residents, a lot of senior residents, and probably your hospital might be the only referral center in that area, which is why the load of the patient is very high. Can be medium load or a dynamic load, which is probably the best position to be in. And less load is where the patient load is not too much, but it's average for a medical college. See, I'm not comparing a medical college to a PHC or normal district hospital. I'm comparing medical colleges overall. Medical colleges are usually referral centers, so the load might be more for you, but when you compare it to other medical colleges, then the load might be less. So in that matter, high load, medium load, or less load. See, if you are lying in the medium load or the dynamic load spectrum, so this is the best position to be in, as I said. It's because a medium load hospital keeps you working as well and gives you a lot of free time as well. And this, I think, is necessary because it keeps you motivated. From my personal experience, what I felt was that when we had the opportunity to take a leave for 2 to 3 days, the first day was totally good. We used to enjoy a lot in that vacation. We used to rest. The second day was okay, probably start to study a little. And by the third day, it used to get very boring for me, because I used to feel that when I used to go to my duty and then come back and then try to sit and study, I had a better efficiency as compared to when I was completely free at home and then I had to study. I found out that the number of hours that I was putting in was actually the same. There was no difference at all. Talking about a less load hospital is ideally a good position to be in when you're preparing for your exams. But when the load is less and then you try to skip your internship, then it gets tough because that will hinder your skills as a doctor. You need to be present in the internship to learn certain skills. Then coming to the high load hospitals, see, this is where it gets tough. I know multiple hospitals which are high load hospitals, especially in Delhi. To name a few, Maulana Azad Medical College, Lady Harding Medical College. These two colleges are infamous for the number of hours of duties that the interns are going to put in. They have 12 to 24 hour shift, and probably that is the same story for your hospital as well. In such cases, the most important thing is that your sleeping schedule will be hampered a lot, and it is very easy to feel overwhelmed by the amount of duty hours that you're going to put in, by the amount of work that you have to do. So that is where the point of utilizing your duty hours comes into play. How you will do that, I'll tell about it later. So now let's talk about the other variable, which is the departments that you will be posted in. First of all, medicine. Medicine, 50% of your time will include internal medicine. The remaining 50% will include pediatrics, dermatology, and psychiatry. Your hospital might have dermatology or psychiatry as electives, but in my hospital, it was mandatory. In surgery, you will be posted in the department of general surgery, casualty, anesthesia, and orthopedics. Then, obs and gynae. Now, let's talk about the duty hours. First of all, you need to go with a fresh mind to your duty, whatever your duty is, whether it is a morning duty, an evening duty, or night duty. You don't need to worry about what's going to happen in the duty before it happens. If you already have preconceived notion about what the duty is going to be or how it is going to be, then believe me that it'll be very, very tough to actually do your duty, not just physically but also mentally. Second is solve MCQs by doing a custom module or a QBank module. The best way you can utilize your duty hours is that as soon as you get your orders, you set up a custom module or you pick up a QBank module of the topic which you studied the previous day or probably a month before, and just randomly practice MCQs. What I used to do was, which my seniors also told me, I used to take up my orders and then set up a custom module selecting the tags of clinical MCQs. The custom module may not be as long as 50 questions or 25 questions even. It can be as short as 10 questions. And the third part is observe. It is very important to observe what is going on in your surroundings. That is why I would highly recommend everyone watching this video that you go to your rounds, be it the residents round or the consultants round. Attending the rounds will really help you get an idea of how the department is working. It will give you an idea and may incline you towards choosing that particular branch or not choosing that particular branch when you finally pursue your residency. Fourth is ask questions. Ask what, ask why, ask how. These three questions will probably help you in your exams as well, being a good clinician. Believe me, when someone tells you a fact that you have read before and you actually see it on a patient, you tend to remember it for a long time. For that matter, I would like to go back to obs and gynae. I'll tell you my experience for obs and gynae. People usually feel that obs and gynae is a very tough department to work in, and it is true because the patient load is extremely, extremely high. My experience was a slightly bit different. What I felt was that in my hospital, obs and gynae department was better structured and there was better division of labor in the department. So that when I used to see patients in the department of obs and gynae, and I used to ask questions, the management lines were exactly what I used to read in my notes. So that really helped me retain that information. For example, I never used to recall how to monitor and what were the exact values of the urine output, for example, when you give MgSO4 to a patient. But when my resident asked that question, when I was asked to put a Foley's catheter to a patient of preeclampsia to monitor her urine output, at that point of time, it really ingrained in my mind. Small things like these really add on to your base knowledge and it helps you retain it for a longer time. During an internship, believe me, it is the last time that you're going to be reading all 19 subjects at once. You are going to have a lot of information in your mind that is cramped up. At that point of time, you want all the things that you learn to go into your long term memory. Next is leave your baggage. Most of the times, what will happen is that You'll do your work very diligently, but your resident will probably scold you, or your consultant will scold you for something you might not have even done. Or sometimes we honestly make mistakes, and we might get scolded for that as well. When we go back home, it stays in our mind and starts to trouble us, and it affects our mental health, because we are not used to getting scolded by our consultants or our teachers, because as I said, when we were students, we were treated differently. So, what I would advise is that whatever the tension, whatever the stress that was that you dealt with during your duty hours, leave it when your duty ends. Believe me, I've experienced it. And you got scolded, okay, accept your mistake, say sorry, and move ahead. So, leave your baggage in your duty when you come back home. Now, what to do during the post duty hours? If you did a morning duty or a day duty, 12-hour duty, first of all, sleep. Now, I've mentioned sleep over here because I was a person who was very accustomed to sleeping in the afternoon. So I needed at least an hour or 1.5 hour of sleep after my duty, because it really freshened me and I knew that I could focus more. Second is get going. Take whatever you wanted to study according to your study plan, and then just immediately sit down and go to the library and start studying as soon as possible. What happens usually is that you woke up at 5:30, then you'll wait till 6 p.m. so that 6 p.m. is a good time to start studying. Or if you go until 6:10 p.m., then you'll think probably 6:30 is a good time to start studying. No, the good time to start studying is right now. If you don't start right now, the cycle will never end. Figure out your focus hours. Now, this is important because how the next 12 months is going to pan out, you really need to understand which hours of the day will give you maximum efficiency from your studies. For example, I knew that my maximum efficiency came during the early morning hours, or it came during the evening, between 5 to 8 p.m. onwards. And for me, as the day went on, the efficiency kept on decreasing. For some people, the efficiency was maximum at night, midnight, when they are used to studying late at nights. But that is totally up to you, and you have to figure that out. Revise what you have read. If your duty starts from 8 a.m. in the morning, or it starts from 9 a.m. in the morning, it's also very important that you utilize the initial hour after you wake up and you go to your department to do your duty. So at that time, it's important to revise what you have read, or utilize that time in some way or the other by watching some videos or solving some MCQs, so that you get in the zone of that day, and that your day progresses to be a good day, efficient. Now, what to do during post duty hours if you did an evening duty or a night duty? What I used to do was I used to take my dinner and then sit down and watch videos that were pending, read some stuff rather than sitting down and opening my notes. I used to read Marrow Pearls. Second is give and review GTs. My seniors told me about this, and I felt it very beneficial that the best time to give a GT is when you have a night duty that day, or when you have an evening duty that day, because I made it a habit to give GTs in the morning session only, which will be the time when is probably going to be, that is from 9 a.m. to 12:30. So I used to sit during that time to give GTs. If you sit down during that time, give your GTs till 12:30 p.m., then do your duty. Then after you come back from your duty, it's a good time to review your GT. And even if you are in night duty, when you go to your night duties and there aren't any patients in between, or you have a slight amount of window where you can rest, you can just open up your app. It's easily accessible on phone, and then review your GT in the phone as well, and then sleep according to schedule. This is where most of the people will vary. What I used to do after my night duties was I used to start studying, and then if I felt that I was sleepy, I used to sleep, but I didn't used to complete the 8 hours or 6 hours of sleep that I needed at that particular moment. I used to sleep for probably say 2 hours or 3 hours, because as I said, I had an habit of sleeping in the afternoon. So I used to sleep for a small amount of time during the day, like probably after having breakfast for a few hours, wake up again, try to study or do something productive, and then I used to catch up with my normal schedule by sleeping in the afternoon. That way, my mind didn't think that I was doing something totally different. And most importantly, plan your parties. Now, this may sound really stupid, but I'll tell you what. whenever we used to plan our parties, it was tough to get back to duty the next morning. So if you have your night duty the next day, then it's probably a good time to go out with your friends or with your family wherever you want to. So it's a good idea to plan your parties in such a way that it lines up with your night duties. Now talking about PSM, see, the sad reality about PSM is that we think that we'll study a lot during PSM, but 90% of us lie in the spectrum of this. And only 10% of people can actually study according to the target they have set. And believe me, I was in the 90% as well, because PSM was my first posting as I stepped into internship. So I did not have a clue as to how to start about it. But slowly I realized the pace that I needed to pick up during my PSM posting. So it's okay if you are starting immediately with your PSM posting, it is okay. Take your time to figure it out, but slowly pick up pace. And if your PSM internship lies in between your medicine or surgery, whatever posting, it gives you a good break. Now, a good break does not mean that you'll go on a vacation immediately. You can take a vacation if it permits. But what I would suggest is that you push your limits during this posting, because if you push your limits really during this posting, then it'll do wonders for you. PSM posting is the best time you can do to cover your weak subjects or first and second year subjects. So what I did was I started immediately with my weak subjects, which were not surprisingly first year subjects. I covered anatomy and biochemistry and microbiology. Set targets which are a little difficult to achieve during this time, because if you set targets like your normal schedule, if you're in your medicine posting and you set a target to complete 2 units in a particular day, and you set the same target of completing 2 units while you are posted in PSM, then it's stupidity. You need to set a target of it completing it, for example, 3 or 4 units per day when you're posted in PSM. If you don't set your targets to a higher level during your PSM posting, then you won't make the most out of it. Moving on to the next variable, which is where do you stay? You might be staying in the hostel, or you might have a flat, or you might be given an accommodation at some place in your campus, or you might be traveling from home, or you might be a day scholar. See, I was a dynamic person, and I used to shuffle a lot between my hostel and my home. So I think I can give you an opinion on what are the pros and cons of staying in a hostel or at a home. See, first of all, I would like to make this very clear that there are distractions in both of these places. Even if you're staying in a hostel, you get distracted by your friends, by your juniors, by your seniors, by everyone. And if you're staying at home, you know there are a lot of distractions there anyway. How do you utilize your time? I'll talk about home first. At home, I used to live at least 1 hour away from my college, and towards the end of my internship, I started to travel back and forth from my home. So, how I used this travel time was that initially I used to come to my hospital by driving, but later on, I realized that I would happily spend 15-20 minutes more on by using public transport as compared to driving there on my own. After a hectic internship, driving back to your home in traffic is not a good idea. So what I used to do was I used to utilize my travel time by solving MCQs, which used to occupy most of my travel hours. And secondly, I used to watch a lot of videos during that time. Videos which I wouldn't probably watch at home, like random videos on an academy or on YouTube related to studies. Or sometimes I used to review my Q banks during my travel time. Or what you can do during travel is you can probably take a nap. After a hectic day, you probably want to take a power nap so that you can resume your studying during that time. So believe me, you'll adapt. Even if you've never napped while traveling in a metro or in an auto or in a cab, you'll eventually learn it, because in this phase of time you need to utilize every second that you can probably get. Now, let's talk about the other side of the spectrum, which is living in a hostel or a rented flat. See, there it gets a little tough because you feel alone, probably because most of us will be living in a single room, or probably might have a roommate which is either too distracting or is too studious. I used to study in my rooms, and I rarely used to go to libraries because I used to feel that I can be more comfortable studying in my own room, but it can be different for you. I used to get up for dinner or for lunch I always made it a habit that I used to travel to my hostel mess. It was a 5 minute walk because I used to live in a rented flat. That is because it used to mentally refresh me. After long hours of sitting or long hours of duty, I used to come to the mess, talk to a few people. You really have to watch the clock on this one, because as time goes on, it'll be very, very important on how much time you're spending on wasting time on talking to people where you can do something more productive. So I used to watch the time as soon as I used to leave my flat, and I used to take a slow walk to the mess. I used to eat there. I used to talk to one or two people. But as soon as I felt that I should probably going, my first instinct was to go back to my flat and start resuming my study. So it was very crucial for me that I hit my targets before a certain amount of time so that I don't have backlog to complete the next day. Believe me that there is no right side or bad side to this. You can be efficient anywhere, any place. And the next variable that I'm going to talk about is sleep schedule. See, I've put in early riser and night owl, but believe me, it is true that most of us are going to lie in the dynamic spectrum because of our internships, because we're going to have night duties, day duties, evening duties. I used to personally struggle a lot initially when I used to have my night duties because I'm an early riser. So what I used to do was, if I had morning duties, I used to wake up around 6. Initially, I used to put in some workouts during that time, but later on, as NEET PG came closer, I started utilizing that time to study what I had read the previous night. And if you're waking up during your night duties, then the thing about night duties is that night duties are not as hectic as they're made to appear. In night duties, you can probably get more breaks than you would get in a 12-hour day duty. So during your night duty, what you should do is you should sit down with your phone, because everything is accessible on your phone. If you can solve MCQs, that then well and good. Then read read the pearls if you are a Marrow subscriber. And believe me that reading at that time will help you gain more information. Personally, I used to feel that MCQs was a better option for me because I did not have much efficiency of studying during evening hours or night hours. Then the most important thing is the time that you have been into your internship. Like if you are someone who's watching this video before you started your internship, or lie anywhere between 0 to 6 months of your internship, then you're probably in a very good space because you know what you want to do ahead, how to study and how to plan your studies. That is going to be discussed in a separate video, but now I just want to tell you that you can sit down and probably plan a better way of how you're going to do those things which you have thought about. And if you're someone who's watching this video in the latter half of the internship, then try to slowly bring changes to your existing schedule. See, it's very difficult to change your schedule, which you have been following for such a long time. But you can bring about small changes daily so that you can probably get more efficient during the latter half of your internship, and you have a very great chance of cracking whatever exam you want, or utilizing the best of your internship. Ultimately, the goal is to be great doctors. So to utilize your internship, you have to have a clear picture of what you are going to do in the next 12 months and how you're going to do it. And the last thing I want to mention is that you are unique. And what I mean with this is that everyone has their own way of going about certain things in their lives. There's a different way about how each and every one of us has been through the journey of 4.5 years during our MBBS. So I believe that everyone has a different way, and there's no right way or wrong way of doing it. It's just that you should have a plan in place so that you can be more efficient in doing the things that you are actually planning for. If you're planning for NEET PG, you need to plan for your studies, and how you do about that is what this video is all about. I hope you liked the video, and I will be coming out with more videos on strategies on how to study, where to study from, and this is all from my side. Thank you so much.